was there and things were going very well. But as always with miracles, they are dependent on 90 minutes. It didn't work out, but we've got a lot to talk about. This is the best game of the weekend. We've got a lot to talk about. It's me and Ian. It's Saints and Greavesy. We're back again. This is the 6 to 1 football show. I'm looking forward to this one because it's going to be a good debate. And this is FTB Sports, and thank you for joining. Oh.
Never give up on us. Now we're on the road to you. Right now, all our dreams can be made. And we'll be kings of football again. England!
It's still a great
Hello. Welcome to 6 to 1 football show, and welcome to my good friend Ian, my partner in crime. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing miraculously well.
Very happy after the weekend's results. We were meant to be doing this last night, but I was not in the right frame of mind. I actually texted you. I think it was still the game was going on, Ian.
Yeah,
And I said, I
I
don't know if I'm going to be in the right state for it last night. But today, I feel I've had a bit of an epiphany. I'm a bit more relaxed. And I'm really looking forward to talking about it because one thing that's happened actually after the game is that not only from Man City and Arsenal fans, there's been a lot of feedback from a lot of fans from different teams about what's happened and our views on things. And it's going to be really interesting to talk through those things. So first of all, Ian, let's start off. Let's go with the first kind of 30 minutes of the game. What was your feeling of that?
I had two thoughts. Firstly, I hope we make it to half time, only 1-0 down. And my second thought was, oh God, it's going to be like going on that Spurs show after the first game of the season. When I actually went on the after the match when Spurs beat City 1-0. So I was actually thinking about what the hell I was going to say to you that evening, just before coming into half time. What did I think? I mean, we talked about in the preview that I felt that Arsenal are on the cusp of something really big. That Arteta has invested lots of his time and energy in this young batch of players. We talked about two moons colliding, a great manager and a really good bunch of young players. God knows why he didn't start Smith Rowe, but we'll maybe come on to that. But what you could see was that hungry pack of dogs giving you not a second at a time, but also being able to move that. There was that movement for that first goal by Arsenal. Geez, you could have gone back in time to Barcelona with Xavi and Iniesta and all those sweeping moves down the field, or any of the great sides. And on that basis, I thought if we can get in only at 1-0 down, Pep usually addresses things at half time that comes out of there. I think the only other thing that I did want to add, I did say I was concerned about a couple of things. I was concerned that City only had a couple of days rest and all that travel down to London to Brentford. God knows if they actually went home and then back again into London, or whether they stayed in London, whatever it would be, it wouldn't be a great experience for the 6 or 7 days rest that Arsenal had, and that worried me. However, the other bit, if you remember, there was 3 things worried me. One was that City would be knackered a game too far after 10 wins. The second was I didn't see how Fernandinho could make it 3 games in a week, and joyous was it me to see Rodri on the team sheet. And then I also worried about left back, as I always worry about left back. But actually the goal came down the other side. But Saka smashed us down that side, and I did.
What I wanted to focus on, Ian, though, because we'll get onto the goal. Obviously, like you said, it was an amazing goal. Is that how well do you think you played in those before the goal? How well do you think you were playing? Because I was obviously at the game, and in my opinion, we had you on the ropes. I've never seen an Arsenal team play this well against Pep Guardiola City side. It was, we were in your faces. We were closing you down. Partey was having the game of his life. Yep. I mean, Partey, that's his best game in an Arsenal shirt. And we had chances early on, first 10 minutes, and even the chances that you had, they weren't clear-cut chances. So how, even before the goal, how are you feeling?
I thought City were playing fine. I think they had 60-odd% possession. Arsenal were just bloody good. You know, I've got to big up Odegaard. I was having lots of WhatsApp conversations with my mate in Spain who's a passionate Real Madrid fan, because Odegaard joined them at 16 as the whiz kid. And, you know, so I give Madrid a bit of stick for actually letting him go. Yes, Partey was cutting it all in front of the defenders, but Odegaard, far more than anybody else, was really harassing the defenders. His pressing was the best in the team.
Yeah, and he's always been a great presser, to be fair. But did you think we were going to come out? Because I've heard people say in media and online and stuff that is the best pressing performance from any team against City in, you know, no one's ever pressed City that well.
Since Liverpool battered City in that first half of the Champions League semi 2 years ago, Ollie, I've got to say that first half from Liverpool that time, after they bricked the coach and set off all the fireworks, of course, as they have to do with all the class that comes from Liverpool.
I kind of like that, though. I did kind of like that.
No, I don't. I know. It pissed me off. You know, a club that went through Heysel and all those different horrible things should never do anything like that.
I know, but I mean,
in the world to do that.
But a very good friend of mine, he's a Liverpool fan. He's from Liverpool, and I said, "Well, that was a bit harsh, wasn't it? Like them throwing the stuff at the coach." And he went, "I don't fucking care. I was there. I was throwing stuff at the coach." I kind of like that. In a very unfair way, I did like that, and that did have an effect on the game.
Yes, I would say, as I worried about, Arsenal are on the cusp of something really good, and Arteta knows City's game well. And when City get really pressed, Ederson looks under pressure, and the defenders look under pressure.
There was a classic moment, Ian, right? And Durham, who sits next to me at Arsenal, he's probably going to watch this. So hello, Joel. He said, "See Ederson making a mistake here," and I went, "No way!" And literally within seconds, he gave the ball away, and we both looked at each other. We were like, "Oh my god, that was insane!" And you know, that must have been a credit to how well we were playing, how we were pressing. The goal. I will say this. I got up. I really needed the toilet. So I got up and I went to the toilet. And I was in the toilet and I heard a cheer. Right? I'm not joking. I heard a cheer. And everyone went, "Oh, no." And I looked at everyone and I went, "What, have City just scored?" And they went, "No, we've scored." Right? And so I went crazy and ran up. And obviously I missed it. That is the first goal I've ever missed at the Emirates. The first goal I've ever missed.
It was a thing of beauty.
It was a lovely goal. I saw it back on the screen.
I thought you might want to talk about the incident before then. The big debatable, wonderful Odegaard.
But I kind of wanted to tie that in
penalty appeal
with your penalty. I kind of wanted to bring the kind of two together. So let's get to halftime. So we're 1-0 up. Great goal. You didn't have a shot on target in that first half, which is pretty incredible. And I reckon the possession stats were probably quite close as well, weren't they? They weren't as far away as at the end of the game.
It was in the early 60s for City.
Yeah, which is
71 by the end of the game, but in the early 60s. Yeah. But that's not
still pretty good for Man City. So we get to halftime. The second half is what it's all about. Because I didn't see a massive reaction from City. I thought we were going to come out, we're going to be sat back, and City were going to be battering us back. And I didn't see much of that. Did you? Did you see much of it?
I'm not sure how much they had in the tank. Usually they would have done. I always think, what would I do? What would I say to the team at half time? And it was interesting. One of the first moves Pep did was he took off Gabriel Jesus, didn't he? And he brought on Gundogan, who I thought injects a bit of energy into that midfield. And I thought that's where they had to tighten up. I would have probably done that a bit earlier. But
we were still getting chances.
I wasn't certain what I would have said. I really wasn't certain what I would have said because Arsenal were flying down that flank. You can't, put in new players down on the flanks. I think I also mentioned in the pre-match that I was scared that Walker wasn't there to get us out of jail. And Cancelo is wonderful going forward. And we do have to respect a guy who's got robbed, and beaten up in his house, comes out and plays 90 minutes in an atmosphere like you respect.
Yeah, well, it happens to Arsenal players. And they just beat him off. They beat him off.
Martinelli was smashing him down that side. I didn't know what to say. I wouldn't have known what to say. I wouldn't have known how to advise him.
But what I would say, actually, Ian, and I'm going back to the first half now, there was more chances for Arsenal that had they had gone in. And, Martinelli had one, and I think there was another one as well. Yep. Well, I was just doing this because, and at the point I was thinking, I need to be in the toilet right now because I don't think we would have scored that goal had I not been in the toilet. Now, that might be me being skeptical and being a holistic idiot. But
everybody sits next to a mate like you at the game. Whenever I leave early, they score. I'm going to leave early.
Ian, I never leave early. Never leave early. But I wasn't there for that. And we did have some good chances. So let's get down to it. So I can't remember what... Honestly, Ian, I'm going to be honest with you now. I have not watched back any of it. So this is all just my knowledge from when I was at the game. And obviously I'd had a few beers, but not that many, but I had a few. What minute, do you remember what minute the penalty came on?
I don't know, 15, something like that.
No, the
second half. The second half one about
the Man City penalty.
10 minutes into the second half.
Okay.
Maybe earlier.
So let's put it out there, right? So for you, obviously you're a Man City fan, and I get that. So it's 57 minutes, okay? Do you think that was a penalty?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay. Why do you think that was a penalty?
And I think Xhaka needs to, there's two pros who should have done a lot better yet, and that's Gabriel and Xhaka. Firstly, when you've got your hands on someone's shirt and you've got your outside leg around his inside leg as he's going past you, you are vulnerable as hell. I'm not going to say Bernardo didn't make a deal out of it. In the same way, Odegaard made as much a deal out of the penalty that wasn't given.
Okay. So it's just, I will stop you there though.
I need to take it back. I need to take this back. Right.
Okay.
So right from the start, and what you didn't necessarily see or hear, all the commentators in the box were saying, it's Martin Atwell, wasn't it? Yeah. Right from the very start, he was letting the game flow.
He was
letting the game flow.
He cheated.
Hold on. Right from the early onset, he was letting some incredible tackles go. I think
cheated. Yes, he cheated.
Martin Keown on the radio and Rio Ferdinand on the telly, and they were loving the defensive aspect. Rodri went in for a cruncher, and one of the Arsenal players, and the referee let loads and loads go.
He let loads and loads go for Man City. No, he didn't let loads and loads go for Arsenal.
In the early days, he let a lot go for both sides. Bear with me.
No. How many yellow cards and red cards, or how many yellow cards did you have from the first half?
Let me come to the crunch. So he, when the Odegaard tackle went in, he wanted to make the decision. He wanted the game to flow. He didn't go across to VAR because he'd taken the decision, wanted the game to flow. This was his style. That was his strategy he had set up for the game. Then, unfortunately, the wheels came off and he lost it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the crunch of when he lost it was in that 57th minute. Thanks for that. When I think he called that. No, he didn't call it a penalty. He took a similar approach. So he's been consistent with the Odegaard one, yeah. But the difference was
he wasn't consistent with the Odegaard because the Odegaard one was a penalty. I feel the Odegaard one was more of a penalty than your penalty.
No, I
honestly,
4 or 5 different angles, and
I'm sorry. Silva dived on that one.
Edison
Odegaard.
Otherwise, VAR would have picked it up.
He did not take the ball. This is where I think it's contentious. This is obviously like you're Man City. I'm Arsenal. I get it.
But the man from VAR, wherever, is sat there and he's replaying it, and he's going,
Okay.
I'm
okay.
going with the referee. We'll let the game flow. Doesn't intervene.
Okay.
doesn't intervene.
Ian, can
But
I
on
ask
the
another?
other one,
Can
he
I
does.
ask a question? Well, this is why I wanted to bring both penalties into one argument, right? So you can say that, yeah, the silver one was a Stonewall penalty. That's fine. Okay.
It was
But
more
could you
tangible
could
because
you
he actually
say
had his hand on his shirt? There was something very
Okay,
definite to see.
that's fine? That's
Definite
fine.
to see.
But the Odegaard one, are you saying that that's definitely not a penalty?
You could. What I'm saying is, you could interpret it in many different ways. It was intangible.
Okay.
Whereas
What
the
I'm
shot
saying is,
on Bernardo was tangible. It was a physical thing to see. There was a
Okay.
debate on one and no debate on the other.
No. There's a debate on both, because had that silver one been an Arsenal occurrence, we wouldn't have got it. This is the Man City bias. Everyone loves Man City because they played a beautiful football, and it's lovely because they're Man City. You know, they're the greatest team ever lived. It's Pep. Both of those penalties would have been given had it been Man City. And that is the upsetting thing. There's no consistency to it.
I haven't got any stats, but it doesn't seem like we've had that many penalties go our way this season.
I'm telling you, had that silver one been an Arsenal player, it wouldn't have gone to VAR and it wouldn't be given. And this is the thing that I'm upset about.
Okay, look, is it a
I
Manchester,
actually think
is it a Manchester thing then? If that had been United,
no, it's a
playing
Man City thing. It's a Man City thing.
that, if Man United have been playing,
I don't care about Man United.
you don't think they would have got the call?
No, I think it's a Man
What
City
about
thing.
home side? What about the noise in that huge stadium?
It's a Man City thing. That was the silver one, right?
Never seen
Okay,
it before.
let's draw it back. Right? The Odegaard one, you're saying that there's a contentiousness.
Debatable.
It's debatable, right?
And
I was at the other
wasn't
end of
tangible.
the. Okay, I was at the other end of the stadium, and even I thought that was a penalty. But that's fine, right?
Hey, I'm
Do you
telling you,
not?
Ollie, if you look at, let's say there's 5 angles to view it. If you're
Do you
viewing it
not
from
think the
2
silver
angles, if
one?
you're viewing it from 2 angles, you'd say it was a penalty. But if you viewed
Every
it from
angle,
the other angle,
it was a penalty. He took him out. He did his foot, but the silver one, it for me is more contentious than the Odegaard one. I'm sorry, but he's dived. He's hit the leg. He's seen the leg. He's gone over.
If you're going to be a top 4 side, yeah, Arteta has to get some discipline into Gabriel and
No,
Xhaka.
well,
And be honest, Xhaka
a different point.
Xhaka's got history of being an imbecile.
That's fine.
He's
That's
done it
fine.
before. And if
That's
you're going to pull someone's shirt in the box, you risk it. You don't do it.
okay. No, I agree.
It's done.
I agree.
He's
I didn't
20
see the
years
shit.
old. He's
I
a
think-
fucking crow at the club. If it had been one of the kids, you know.
Right,
If
so
if
what
you
you're
had
saying
Tavares-
is
if you had
because
Tavares on,
it's Xhaka, it should have been a pen, right? Okay. No, look, I get that.
because it's Xhaka and he is a mature, experienced international professional. He should have been the last player on the field to do a schoolboy thing. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay, but I mean, Edison was a schoolboy thing, and it was a clear and obvious foul, but nothing got done.
Well, okay, let's put it another way. Was Edison's intent, or was he intending to go for the ball, even if he didn't?
It was a
connect?
worse
What was
foul.
he
It was a worse foul than
intending-
Xhaka's.
What was the intent?
It was a far worse foul. It
Was he
a far worse
intending
foul.
to get to the ball? But
He
you
didn't
can't
get the
take
ball.
it away from Xhaka. His
Ian,
intent-
he didn't
his
get
intent
the
was to
ball.
legally impede the player. If
he
you
didn't
pull
get the
his
ball.
shirt, that's not an accident. That's not.
He
clumsy.
didn't get the ball though. Edison didn't get the ball, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Xhaka, I get it. Look, you know what? That's a 50-50 call, the Xhaka one, and I can see why it went the other way. The thing that I think is upsetting Arsenal fans and upsetting a lot of fans is that the Edison one was, in my opinion, wasn't 50-50. It was worse. And they looked at it on VAR and they didn't call the guy back to the screen to have a look at it. Now,
Yeah. So the
I
ref,
think that-
the ref thought it was fine. VAR thought
Yeah.
it was fine, so they played on.
but maybe that comes back to the point that you said, and Ian, and this is why I like you, Ian. I respect you a lot. I admire your opinion on football because to me, you don't get very emotional. I get very emotional. I'm still emotional now. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and that's why I like you, Ian.
I do.
But I do think that's the bone of contention within those two penalties. But look, you got the penalty, and a lot of people said that was a penalty. In my opinion, I didn't think it was, but I mean, what the fuck do I know?
So a little bit of luck goes against Arsenal in terms of the Bernardo. Let's roll with it. Whatever you say. Okay, so it's 1-1.
But I'm not saying. I do think it could have been a penalty. It probably was a penalty.
It's 1-1. They've still got 11 players on the pitch. They know they've got the making of City. They know that they've run them ragged in the first half. They've got confidence. They've got energy. They've got the ability. Okay, so the ball goes back to the centre circle at 1-1. What's going through their heads now? And then what happened? Okay, so the next incident was the defensive cock-up by City. Then the ball nearly crosses the line. Aki incredibly hooks it off the line. And Martinelli could have buried it. He didn't. He lacked composure.
Was that when the referee got in the way of Martinelli? That point
when he connected with the ball, he was miles away from him.
He put him off his stride. That was the referee. The referee in this game was horrendous. Why was he even standing there? He didn't even need to stand in that position. He didn't have to even have any effect on Martinelli.
I tell you, I watched a couple of wonderful goals this weekend. I saw the Lanzini one for West Ham against Crystal Palace, and I just saw the Liverpool-Chelsea one, and it was Pulisic, the American guy who plays for Canada. And both of those goals were calm, beautifully controlled. In the heat of the moment, they pulled out a piece of magic. And to get in the top four, that's what Martinelli had to do in that situation, and he didn't.
No, so, I agree. So he still missed it.
You've got an open goal that he fluffs. And then,
even though with the referee...
talk about this. Gabriel, he knows he's been booked for saying or scuffing.
That wasn't the second yellow. That wasn't the second yellow.
Oh, come on. That was a blatant halfway.
No, he could have let that go. He could have not given him a yellow for the stamping on the red. Honestly, if that was a City player, who had have stamped on the spot, it would have been like, whoa, don't do that. Don't do that, but I'm not going to card you. There is a bias against Arsenal.
I think at that stage, the ref had lost control.
There's a bias against Arsenal. There's a bias.
He had the whole stadium on his back.
No, there's a bias. Ian, there is a bias against Arsenal.
Who was Arsenal's captain?
It was Lacazette at the time.
Okay, so really, Lacazette as a captain, he's not been captain that often, has he?
Look, don't get me wrong.
Should have been calming that team down, because Saka got a booking, and a variety of Arsenal players got a booking for losing it. Yeah,
right. But that's because Man City cheated, and this is what happened, Ian. And from your messages,
you had enough in the bank to get out of that.
You cheated. You cheated. Basically, you couldn't get into the game. So what you thought was, right, the only way we're going to win this game is by cheating, and then you cheated. And lo and behold,
how did City cheat?
You cheated by A, winning the penalty, B, by blagging up Gabriel, which wasn't the second yellow, and C,
Gabriel Jesus, who got fouled by Gabriel. Interesting.
It wasn't a yellow card. It wasn't a yellow card.
But he didn't cheat. The referee took that decision to give him a second.
No, but you blagged the referee, man. Look.
Come on.
You did.
Come on.
Look, any other team, if we were playing Norwich, it wouldn't have been the same.
Look back to history. Look back to Xhaka, letting his side down at key moments of his career. And yet then internationally goes and plays like a flipping god. Like
Ian,
or whatever it is.
If that was a player in a Man City shirt, that penalty wouldn't have been given.
Well, if you remember on Friday night or whatever, and I said, I was worried about certain things. I was worried about Fernandinho's rashness.
Ian, you shouldn't be worried. You shouldn't be worried because you've got everyone in your back pocket. It's fine. Like you had the ref in your back pocket. You didn't even. I couldn't even remember.
It's never gone this way for us before. I don't think we've ever been called out on a track record.
Okay. All right. Let me put it this way. Right.
We've ever been had a go at for allegedly cheating.
You are a bunch of cheaters,
Yeah.
right?
United
Ian,
get
right?
accusations every week.
No, Ian, right? So, how many cards did we get in the first half? Right? How many cards did you get? None.
Can't
You got
remember,
no
not-
cards.
I thought
And
hardly
also,
anybody got
do
any
you
cards.
remember? Do you remember the point when Martinelli went through and Diaz just threw an elbow in his face and nothing happened? It was the most biased referee
Well, tell you what,
performance.
you should have watched Liverpool Chelsea because Sadio Mane
don't-
absolutely leathered this guy in the first few seconds.
Ian, I don't care about Chelsea Liverpool, right? All I care about is a fair game, right? When you beat us 5-0 and Xhaka got sent off, I'd be like, know what? That's fine. That was understandable. That's acceptable. That was within the realms of the thing. But this game, I do think. Now,
Well,
don't get me wrong.
You knew what the team knew what they had to do. So let me walk you through. Firstly, the captain has to get a grip of the emotion. So Lacazette, as the senior pro, he gets his other senior pros around him and he goes, right, let's keep our heads on here. We have the measure of this team. We can beat them. Let's not do anything ridiculous. You're on a yellow, you're on a yellow, you're on a yellow. We have to protect you. We mustn't get you in a one-to-one situation. And that's what a captain on the field will do as a result. And maybe, just maybe, Arsenal missed Arteta pointing that out to a fairly naive captain.
No, I think that's a very good point. I think that's a very good point. I actually
Arsenal
do.
had done that, if they'd have kept a lid on their emotions, and this is about why I describe them as a team on the cusp. A team on the cusp is not just about what goes on the field and the skills. It's about what goes on in the head as well. You know, when you see that documentary, the one, the Man City one, Pepe's there in the schoolroom. He is regimentally disciplining, getting them to think like little robots on a perpetual basis. Being on the cusp means you can go one way or another, and Arsenal can, and I believe they can, make the top four, make a big impact over the next few years. But part of that is the skills they've got, but the other part is upstairs. And if their senior pro continues to let them down, if their captain doesn't get a grip on
I don't think Xhaka has let us down, because that was a dive and that was not a penalty. Right. So, all right, let's look at the two penalties again. Right. So if Odegaard's is not a penalty, right? That's not a penalty. That's what everyone say. That's not a penalty. But Xhaka's is. Then that surely brings up a bone of contention.
Okay, here's another little interesting one for you then, Ollie. I also thought the game was lost when clearly, the Arsenal had gone down to 10 men and a decision had to be taken.
We were still a better team with 10 men. We were still a better team.
The decision had to be taken about whether they had a change, because you're down to one centre-back. Okay. Now, do you want to win the game or do you not? If you want to win the game...
We're never going to beat City with 10 men. Never. Never.
Yeah, there's two ways of winning the game. You keep the press high and you keep City off your back, which Odegaard...
If we had kept the press high, it would have been 4-5-1.
I would have been tempted to have kept a player like Odegaard on the pitch. He was doing all the pressing in the world.
No, at that moment, all we had to do, and I agree with you, Gabriel was a fucking idiot. He shouldn't have done what he'd done.
Taking Odegaard off, you were unleashing. City.
Ian, we had to. We were playing for the draw. And we were unlucky to lose the game. And then they, in fact, what do you think about this then, Ian? Right. So Rodri scores. Yeah, you're about 50 meters from the Man City fans.
Yeah,
and yet he runs to the other corner to celebrate in front of the Arsenal fans.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's a very noble chap.
Disgusting.
He's a very noble
you
chap.
Don't do that.
A high percentage of his wages to charity. He's a very
wanker.
Guy. Now, what must have wound him up to have got to that situation? I don't know.
But who cares? Because that you would rather celebrate in front of the Arsenal fans than you would celebrate in front of the paying Man City fans. And I was speaking to Man City fans on the tube station.
Yeah.
And we were having a laugh about it. They got on the train at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? So for me, if I was that City fan and I saw him run over to the Arsenal fans, I would be very happy about that. But I mean,
I was surprised. Again, I haven't seen that. since Adebayor all those years ago.
I don't even think he got booked
City
either. He took his
celebration.
shirt off and he didn't even get booked. But let's sum it all up.
Let's sum it all. I tell you what. In one summary, when I was communicating with my pals in Spain, in my summary was that is why we watch the best league in the world.
Yeah,
Games
and,
like
and the thing I take from it, Ian, is that I think you're right. I think you're right in a lot of things that you've said. That's why I like you, Ian. That's why we do these shows. What we need to learn from this, we need to learn a lot more from it. But the thing that makes me feel really good about it, and it's just an Arsenal thing. Obviously, I'm a season ticket holder, but everyone in that team, everyone in that crowd was just behind the team. Even at the end, we were clapping them off. And we were saying that, well done. And there's a positivity back in the club.
Yep.
And it was a nice thing to see because and I think that's why we're all so upset. It's because realistically, we put in a performance that we should have got something back from the best team in the world. And we didn't. You know, and through what you said, like Gabriel, I think if Gabriel had stayed on the pitch, we would have at least got the draw.
Yeah, I agree.
But it didn't happen that way. And you know what? You know, Man City won, and that was that. And you know, the title is nailed on there. I just felt that you cheated a little bit, but that's probably biased.
The weird bit, Ollie, is you know, when you're in the banter group, you see all these guys around the country. That's never labelled at City. You know, they accuse all sorts of players of diving. Liverpool players, United get stick every single week, but City never get accused of cheating. Never.
I thought that
a lot of sneaky fouls. I'm not going to say that we're not the masters of the dark arts. Fernandinho and co are past masters. Pep was a past master at Barcelona. So I'm not going to say that we're not good at the dark arts, because we are good at the dark arts, but I don't necessarily see that as cheating, really. The best team in the world have all done that. It's called
okay. So
it's called maturity.
Do you think the best team won that game? Do you think you were the better team over the 90 minutes?
No. And Pep Guardiola said that. He said Arsenal were the better team. He made a comment about 2 days rest versus 6. And you know I was really worried about that. Because the last team you want to play is Arsenal away when you've had that run of games and been down to Brentford. That would have been the last thing. And interestingly, you know, Brentford went out and beat Villa today. So Brentford are performing quite well. So that win that City had at Brentford was as valuable and must have taken a lot out of them than some of the other teams. But well, actually, I want to say, yeah, I wanted to pick out Cancelo. I think as a human being, for you and your family to get robbed and beaten up at knife point or whatever it was, and robbed, and then play 90 minutes in a cauldron like that, I take my hat off. You know, to that age.
You say it's a cauldron, but we weren't like abusing him. You know,
no. But it was a high energy atmosphere, and I just wanted to. I just thought that was pretty good.
No,
and
I mean,
he wanted a big open game, but he became the victim of his strategy, where he then completely lost control because he let things go.
I guess, Ian, I wish that first penalty had been given, and then nothing else after that would have been said, because I do think it was a penalty, and I do think when you weigh up the two, I think that would have been fair. But I mean, you know, it didn't, and that's fine.
Was it? Yeah, I think on Friday or whenever it was, you talked about that offside decision that City got the look of, which was Foden.
No, that was Adam. Was
it Adam? Foden against who? I can't remember who it was. Who was called offside? Not offside in a different, or offside in a different game. And you know what? It's those crazy little. It's a bit like that Odegaard Ederson intersection. You can look at it from lots of different directions, and sometimes the luck goes with you, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you can't explain it. But and I know we're not going to agree, but we'll never fall out. I still think if a player tangibly has his hands on another player's shirt in the penalty box, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, but the
It's a
thing
bit
is
like
that's
when
the funny
Palace
thing.
when Palace conceded that penalty.
That's the
when
funny. That's the
Milosevic
funny
jumped
thing,
in
Ian.
the air
Though,
for a dodgy bounce and it caught him on the arm. If it
Ian-
touches his arm, he's done for.
Ian, that's the funny thing, though, that I can say, although I didn't think it was a penalty, I can still say I can see that why it was a penalty.
Hmm.
I can see why it got given.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm biased, so I didn't think it was a penalty, but I could still see it why it was.
If
Which
it
I
had been
think-
the other way, and let's say I don't know, Aki or Rodri or someone had
It doesn't go the other way, though. This is what I'm saying.
I
There's a
would
bias.
have been more upset than you were at my own player for doing something.
There's a
stupid
bias,
with someone's shirt.
Ian. There's a bias. If you play for City, you get more things than other teams. It's true.
Oh, no, I don't
You
accept
do.
it.
You
Quite
do.
interesting.
I'm sorry.
On my little chatter group, I was watching the Palace game.
City.
You were
City
probably in a comatose heap somewhere, but I was watching the Palace game against
City
West
get
Ham.
City get
And-
more. I love to see the stats on how
But it
much
was
City.
interesting. My Palace mates were really critical of Milosevic's handball. They really criticised their own player and just said that was a bloody stupid thing to do. You know, it was a critical part of the game. He was the captain. He was a really experienced player. He shouldn't have got caught out by the bounce of the ball like that.
Yeah.
So just maybe at some stage in the future, reflect back and just say, you know, don't give him a reason. Don't give him a reason to give a penalty against you.
But Ian, I could reflect back if the Odegaard one was treated in the same way. That's what I'm trying
Sometimes
to
they
say.
will go for you. Sometimes they won't.
No,
Also,
that
shit,
that
doing
should have
football.
been a penalty. Right. If the silver one was a penalty, the Odegaard one should have been a penalty. That's what I'm saying.
Different
So
issues.
where's the consistency? Where's the consistency?
They're completely different issues. One was about 2 feet intersecting going for the ball, and the other one was about foul play with someone
Right.
pulling his shirt and
So
putting his leg
no,
across.
the pulling of the shirt, but the ball was about 2 foot away from him.
But
He was never going to do anything with that ball.
It's a tangible. It's
No,
it
it
doesn't matter what
just
direction you're
shows
looking
there
at.
is a bias towards Man City because Man City are the love child of everyone. You know, they bought the
Well,
league, they bought everything. Then you know they're a
They're
big club now.
certainly not the love child as you've noticed of UEFA, who I
Well,
imagine are connected with the big.
Well,
leagues
that's
in-
probably fair because
Yeah,
you
the
broke the
Europeans have-
financial
well,
you broke
any
the
other-
financial fair play and got away with that. You
Well,
know what I mean? So maybe, you know,
We were trying
maybe
to get
that's
by the
that.
German newspapers, and that was the bottom line of that. And that's
Well, that
just as a tangent, really interesting one. You know, when something, when UEFA sees something questionable, they want to explore the British team. They just go for it. But yet, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid can blatantly induce players from other clubs to leave those clubs for nothing, like Real Madrid have done with Mbappe, or like Bayern Munich did with Leroy Sané, to leave those clubs absolutely blatantly. And British clubs wouldn't get away with that. You cannot, you know, entice those players when they're in contract abroad, and yet those two clubs they get away with all the time. Yeah, if you want to talk about, you know, the love until that breakaway league, Real Madrid used to get away with.
no, but it always upsets me, Ian, because Wenger was always a big staunt of financial fair play. Yet we let Chelsea, Man City, Man United ruin financial fair play, get away with it, and then we were the ones that got stung for it. So
It's an
one of those,
interesting
isn't
one. You look at
don't tell me now, Ian, that right in that circumstance that Man City weren't guilty of what they had done.
so the crucial question you're asking is when there is a grey law that has only just been tightened up, which says that the sponsors of the team can't be also the owners of the team, so the airlines, etc., in intrinsic, because then at that stage there is a questionable value to the sponsorship given. So the airline, the Etihad Airlines, is also owned by the same owners in Abu Dhabi, said that they handed over whatever it was, £100 million sponsorship. Yeah. Now the German newspaper in UEFA said, oh, hang on. No, usually you'd buy that sort of level of sponsorship for only about 20 million. You've overinflated how much you've given the club in revenue going one way versus another. And that is the contentious debate about. But the only bit I'd also say, and I say to every Man
But you
United
got away with it. You got away with
I
it.
say to Man United fans is that the owners of Man City didn't just invest in the club. They weren't looking to make a fast buck or get dividend like at United. You know, they've regenerated a quarter of Manchester. You know, they've built 4 hospitals in that area, thousands of houses, the most renowned sports facilities in the country. They've invested hugely, and this is Arabs from the Middle East, in the women's game. So you've got American owners where Man United have only had a women's team for what is best part of a
But
year.
Ian, we're not talking about Man
I'm trying to
United.
explain how
We're talking about Manchester City. We're talking about Man City. Don't worry about Man United. Man United have their own story, their own back thing. Forget about them. Forget about them. Start me talking about Tottenham. Forget about them. Do you think that in that dispute that happened, do you think that you were totally innocent in everything?
Of the fair play?
Mm.
I don't know.
No, because
It's
you
beyond my
were
knowledge, I think.
you were guilty in it, and you got found guilty, and then
It was
you
that the
you
law-
have that much
the law
money.
was different.
This is the way of the world. When you've got that much money, that you can say, "No, you're wrong. We'll take it to the higher court." Money, money, money.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute the fact that I feel that UEFA are utterly corrupt. Yeah.
Look, don't get me wrong. I don't think UEFA are not corrupt. I don't think FIFA are not
watch
corrupt.
a World Cup. Can we believe that? You know, in a year from now, I think it's a year from now, we'll be watching a World Cup in flipping Qatar. You know, can we also believe that the last World Cup was in Russia, and yet they just seized Crimea, and there was all this agitation in the world. They had every Olympic athlete banned, and they were still allowed to run the World Cup. Qatar, with all their human rights issues, and of course, and I was very happy he wasn't given a knighthood. So I had mixed feelings on this night. And that was David Beckham, £110 million sponsored by Qatar to represent the World Cup.
David Beckham's a legend, though. He's a legend.
Yeah, well, a legend doesn't sell his soul to the devil by representing Qatar.
Right. Let's forget all that, Ian. And I'm
the Winter Olympics either.
Let's forget that, Ian. I'm really enjoying kind of where we're going with this. I really like this. It's kind of like off the cuff. It's like, yeah, it's good. It's good. It's cool.
If City. We know UEFA are corrupt as shit, yeah? Platini and Co.
So is City. So is City. City are just as corrupt as UEFA. They are.
If that's the case, why did this fair play legal case ever come about? Why did
but the thing is, though, you didn't abide
behind the scenes.
You didn't abide by the fair play when everyone else was abiding by the fair play, i.e. Arsenal, and we were going, no, this is financial fair play, and then you abused that, and then when you got proved to say, actually, yeah, they abused the financial fair play, what you did is you went, we'll go to the higher courts, we'll pay more money, and then we'll
this. How much do you know about the Russian major shareholder at Arsenal? He's a quiet guy. He's a good.
There's no Russian shareholder, mate. There's all the Cronkies. It's all the Cronkies.
What about the Juvenov guy?
No, we bought him out a long time.
Did you buy him out? Okay.
Yeah, Cronkies did.
They're good lads, are they? They're real nice, honourable.
All I'm saying is that when Wenger was in, we stuck to the financial fair play because we thought it was going to be a beneficial thing to our club.
That's because the owners didn't have any more brass.
No. We stuck to financial play because we thought that was the honest thing. And Man City didn't stick to the financial fair play. They got brought up on about it and then said, that's not right, that's wrong. And yet they got away with it anyway.
I just wonder on that one. I'm not as convinced as you on it because if UEFA are as corrupt as we all think they are and say they are, why didn't City just buy their way out of it? which is
They did buy their way out of it. They did.
Yeah,
That's
well,
exactly what they did.
Hamilton,
They got
otherwise he would have
proved,
just been caught.
Ian, they got proved that they were wrong and they had bribed the financial fair play. And then what they did
They were
is to get out of it is they took it to the higher court, paid
were
more
legally
money.
by a German newspaper.
Mate,
Das
come on.
Spiegel.
Come on, Ian.
And back at the game. Back at the game. I thought.
No, the game's done. We don't care about the game anymore. It's done.
What about the rest
Well,
of the
Arsenal-
weekend? Did you enjoy the
Arsenal-
last minute winner? for
Arsenal was shit. Arsenal was shit. We got mugged off. And, you know,
What
Man
you
City.
feel sorry for Watford and Claudio Ranieri. You know, they held out to the 94th minute.
No, because it doesn't matter, does it? Don't matter if you know. Actually, Ian, this is a good point. The one reason I'm glad we did lose to Man City, and there's a big learning curve from that, and I think you're very right. Like we need to learn. We need to learn from that game. Should teach us more. That's more beneficial to us than a lot of games because it shows you can't. No matter how well you're playing, you still can't win on the best game of your life. B, you don't do stupid shit like stamping on the fucking penalty spot, which was totally stupid, right? And C, it don't matter how well you play in this league, you can still go home wanting. So now, us versus
Arsenal are on the cusp, and they're going to go one way or the other. And it's not just about ability. You know, Alex Ferguson won all those trophies, and he is certainly no angel.
Alex Ferguson.
That team. If City have got dark arts, it's nothing compared with the dark arts.
No, it's not. And
Alex
you know
Ferguson,
what?
Roy Keane. I mean, all that.
Right.
I mean, you need to get a bit of savvy. Arsenal need
Ferguson is the best manager ever lived. Hands down. No one can touch that man. He is the god of football. He was that good. And you know, Pep Guardiola, he's amazing. I love him to bits, but he's no Alex Ferguson. That man, honestly, I've got an athletic subscription, and anything that says Ferguson,
an artist with a bricklayer, though, isn't it? Pep Guardiola and Alex Ferguson.
No, because they're on a precipice to each other. They are on each other's level. Like
you're probably right, but
they are like
back to the Arsenal. Being on.
Let's not talk about Arsenal anymore.
Think you just said you respect Alex Ferguson in all those ways. Think about how he absolutely disciplined his team to stay on the level. Fergie time, playing to the whistle, haranguing the referees. He used every dark art there was as well to get the ball over the line. You know, you look at the great Liverpool teams and the great successes of Liverpool and the way the crowd almost sucked the ball into the game, the intensity created. It's not just about the 11 players. It's also about the streetwiseness of those 11 players. It's the activities of the manager on the side. It's the activities of the crowd. There's being the greatest in the country is more about than just those 11 players, like it or not. And Arsenal need to just wise up a little bit. They've got it. Don't blow it.
Yeah, and you know what? You know, Ian,
the core of the right players. Just, you know, I think one of the best things he's done is getting Aubameyang out of there. Let Lacazette go, and then you've got to get 2 or 3 bloody good senior pros. You've got to find yourself a Fernandinho, a company.
But the thing is, Ian, that's the great thing about
Xhaka.
That's the great thing about this game is that after all that has happened, after how contentious everything was, right? This game against Man City will be a bigger game for Arsenal Football Club for learning and seeing for what happened and seeing what we did wrong and seeing what we did right. You know, like almost like it's like a measuring stick for how good this team could be. And in a way, that's why I didn't want to talk about it yesterday, because I was absolutely livid. I was fuming. If you had to put me on a camera yesterday, then it wouldn't have been a good thing. Whereas today, I'm more subjective. Whereas now I can see it for what it is. And I can see it that, you know what, we lost to the best team, probably one of the best teams in the world, hands down.
And you were just definitely unlucky.
Yeah, we were unlucky, but that was to our own fault. But
and it could be a day you look back at, and in 5 years, when Arsenal have won the league twice and a European trophy,
Ian,
why not?
Ian, we're never going to win the league again. Not as long as Man City.
You won't with Xhaka in the team, and you won't without someone slapping Gabriel around the chops and getting him a grip. But if you can get yourself a strong captain and a senior pro who doesn't act like a child.
I think Xhaka had a very good game, to be fair, and it could have been more goals if it wasn't.
It's those key moments. Somebody didn't keep a lid on the emotions when they concede that penalty.
Yeah, but Ian, isn't this
shenanigans go on?
Ian, hasn't this always been the things like leveled against Arsenal? It's like they're not passionate enough and they don't react enough. So that at the time when we do react and we do show the passion, then we get told,
well,
don't do that.
Passion isn't booting up the centre circle and then committing a foul right under the referee a few minutes later.
That was silly, but Xhaka didn't do that.
The word for that is fragility.
No, but Xhaka didn't do that. Xhaka put his fire out. He put his fire out. Silva saw the fire. Pole vaulted over the thigh, and then that was good enough for a penalty.
Anyway. Hopefully, you look back in years to come, and you and I will be sat here, and you'll be going, "That was the day in. That was the day. That was the day that we showed the world that we are on the cusp of greatness."
Ian,
what I said.
Ian,
he can fall one side of the line or the other. If you're going to go the right side of the line, you've got to get rid of the fragile bit. You've got to get some of those senior pros not doing stupid stuff. And if you won all, it's not the end of the world. You could have won that game if you'd just not pissed your pants, really.
Ian, I like you a lot. I've got a lot of time for you, Ian. I really do. I really do. And I really like the way that you're really good at like contextualizing everything. You're really good at like pulling all the emotion out of it. And I really do. I like you a lot. You're a good guy. Ian.
I like you too, Ollie. And I was so ready to face you dancing around the room. I thought I was going to be. I thought City were going to go down like by 3 or so, and I was going to have to come on and go, "Yeah, you were great. It was awesome. They were fantastic. Everything that they'd shown promised to be." And I was ready emotionally. I'm calm now and not hooting it all up because actually emotionally, I was ready to somehow put a dignified approach on getting a thrashing.
Right, it didn't happen, and it was good result for City.
You could have done it.
Yeah, we could have, and that's why I really respect your opinion and the things that you said.
When you're playing Liverpool and Chelsea and Spurs, let's focus on this one.
That's the next game, the Spurs.
So, Conte will wind those guys up. They've just had a last-minute winner. He's going to have watched your game and thought, bloody hell, we're going to have a really hard time down the flanks. They've got a good defensive setup now, fantastic goalkeeper. He's going to watch all that. Do you know what he's going to be saying? We're going to have to do some dark arts and tricks because they've got a fragile.
He's going to say, we saw what Man City did. They did the dark arts and tricks. Yeah. We're going to do the same thing.
And I tell you, Antonio Conte, if you think Pep's a bloody master at dark arts, you wait for him. You know, they'll have somebody on Xhaka winding him up. You know,
well, everyone does have
him in the arse, nip him in the bollocks. That he will target those players with the dodgy temperament. And the other bit I want to add is,
well, what do you think the scores? What do you think the score's going to be then against Spurs?
If Arsenal play to all their strengths, you will win. But
Ian, if we play as well as we did against you,
if you sustain it for 90 minutes rather than just 48 or whatever it was.
No, we sustained it until Gabriel got sent off. So 60 minutes.
No, because the players, the stupidity that went on around the penalty. Yes, you can see the penalty, but they should have whipped it into shape. That was when the stupidity came in. So I think if Arsenal can do that, they will beat Spurs. But Conte and the Spurs players will have watched and they will have thought, we're not going to beat them by just playing good boy football. So that's what will come afoot. You be ready for fireworks at Spurs, because have a look at who are the niggliest, nastiest Spurs players, and think about how Conte is going to wind you up. The other bit, interestingly, was that, and I thought Rodri was great for City. City were quite physical, more than they usually are. Diaz and Rodri really flattened, and most of it was fair, but really did some Norman Hunter tackles on some of the Arsenal youngsters. You've got to get ready, because that will happen.
That's where the cheating comes in. That's where the cheating comes in. Ian, I've got to go because if I don't get to the toilet now, then something bad's going to happen.
Friday night.
Wait. Ian, thank you so much for coming on today. I think you've been brilliant. You're a great guy. I love you to bits. And we're going to have a Friday night show, aren't we? FA Cup show on your show. Yeah. And, Man City, they did cheat a bit, but then that's what happens with Man City. They're the big teams. But we love each other. We're Saints and Greavesy, aren't we?
We are. Like
us, share, subscribe. FGB Sports 6-1 Football Show. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you soon. There we go.
Right. Go.